One. Folks, we are live. Welcome to the random party generator. Holy shit. This is when you need like a caller. We are going old school on this one. I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. In Center Square, top. This could be the Brady Bunch. I'm not sure who that would be, Cindy. But that would be Rob
I'm
Conley.
Bobby. I'm Bobby now, huh?
All right. Douglas Cole, it has the far right. Below me, Tim Short, Scottbridge Manor. Matt Jackson with the pink highlights. He's feeling extra good today, folks.
Yeah.
So, but expect the best from Matt. Bad Mike, doesn't need an introduction. Mike, turn on your horns for a moment so people can see you in your glory.
Oh, nice. They flash.
Oh, his
man.
failed.
These things are old.
They shorted out.
I got a flash. I shorted them out.
They have a pill for that, Mike. You get that
Wizard of the Coast is none other than Greg.
Tell me about the things you've written so that I can steal them.
Yes, see. And Joe the lawyer.
Hello, guys.
This is our panel.
It is.
Holy crap! The chat's going crazy. I can mute myself for the rest of the show. I would not be missed.
We're gonna do this Big Brother style. You have to be voted. You're gonna be voted off as time goes on. So get your votes in, everybody. You can vote us off all the time.
Someone's already voted.
We already have a vote.
Doug?
Hi, Doug.
We lost. That was quick.
Special guest Doug. Oh, there he is.
I made the mistake of trying to log in so I could do that stuff, and that was a mistake. I will not.
We've all done it.
I'm just gonna remain whatever.
Okay.
So why don't we start off with Doug, because you know a lot of us are and Bad Mike following, because those two guys are probably the most impacted by all that's going on, as they are both full-blown publishers. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, you also make your living from Frog God Games, right?
Well, I'm actually a 1% stockholder in Frog God Games, and I'm never going to say that I equal any creative that works for that company, because I don't. I create less than anybody there. But yes, I definitely have a vested interest in this because they're my friend. They're my friends, and yes, I work for them.
So, Doug, why don't you take it off? Lead us through how this has impacted us.
Sure. So, for people who may or may not know me, I'm Douglas Cole. I'm the Chief Everything Officer at Gaming Ballistic. So I'm a one-man shop. I sort of got my start really publishing my old set of grappling rules, dungeon grappling, and that was OSE, Pathfinder, and 5e. Then for a little bit, I dabbled and eventually came out with my big, as Ryan Dancy would have described it, fantasy heartbreaker, Dragon Heresy. And then I got a license to publish for Steve Jackson Games, one of few. And I've been doing that, but last year I did, I converted some fantasy trip solos that David Pulver had written to OSE, and it was my best Kickstarter ever. And it was even better below the waterline, so to speak, than it was above the waterline, because I had like 1,400 followers. I had so many followers, and only 200 of them backed, and I still had a record because like 600 extra people dropped by to back the project, and they just showed up and backed. So like in one fell swoop, I had more people looking at my stuff than ever, and I'm like, okay, old school Renaissance, got it, message received, let's do this. So I've got all kinds of plans this year to re-enter that space with vigor. Well, I did until last week, and then things got put on hold until I was able to take a breath, understand the landscape that I'm dealing with, and then make a plan to go forward, which I think I have done. So I don't want to monopolize the conversation, so that's kind of my intro.
What are you thinking in terms of considerations? Obviously, we all know what we're talking about here, guys. The 1.1 or 1.1 OGL or the 2.0, whatever the hell we're going to end up calling it. What is your fear? What are you doing to get around it? What's the plan, Doug?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, there's just no way, right? I mean, I ran Screaming from the DM's Guild as opposed to the Open Gaming License when it first came out, because it really had a lot. This is not, I mean, some of this is not new ground for Wizards, right? The DM's Guild has a lot of the same language in terms of ownership and you know, we're gonna take half of your stuff and your money or whatever. So this is not exactly new ground. You know, so here's the thing. The first thing that I did is I looked around, and Kevin Crawford has Worlds Without Number, which is kind of a medium weight. You can see the OGL roots. I'm sorry, the OSR roots. Boy, these three-letter acronyms are gonna mess me up.
That's all right.
I know
We've been arguing it for 12 years.
Yeah. Anyway, so Worlds Without Number has a nice base that feels a lot like it. It's got the attributes and whatever, and he doesn't care. He just posted to
Reddit? Was it? I think it was
to Reddit that he's just like, look, don't touch my IP, and I don't care what you do with the mechanics. I don't have time or interest to chase down fake copyright stuff on mechanics. It's just not in my interest at all. So I like it. It's got a light skill system built into it and stuff like that. It has some backgroundy stuff, and that fit really well with the project that I want to do next. But with that in mind, I do have one. With that in mind, you know, my next project was just going to be taking these like I have like 172 characters and NPCs and stuff, and Glenn Seal from Monkey Blood and I worked out a graphic design for that doesn't help you. Graphic design for these cards, and there's art on the back.
Hey, let me give you the spotlight there for a second.
Okay.
There you go, now.
Here's an NPC. This is an empty one, but here we go. Let's do this, and this is maybe more interesting. All right, so this is simple. I probably could have made the text bigger on this one, but basically what you do is you put the card in front of you. Your players see the art, you see the stats, and it's just a quick reference card. And I've got like 172 of these things. And you know, the book has actually there's enough that's lightweight on the card that I actually can have some background on there too, so that the game master has a mild personality, right? This is not 50 pages of backstory. It's just a little bit of what it is. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, I wrote the description. You can't really attack the stat blocks. I've heard that over and over and over again from Matt Finch and a bunch of people who are lawyers, but they're totally not giving legal advice, and yet the weight piles up. You know, it's mechanics. It's mechanics, and everything that I wrote is fine. So I'm just gonna roll forward and use the OSE stat block, and I'm gonna. My Kickstarter, whenever I launch it, I mean, I was hoping to launch it like in a week. I think I have to push that to the right since I haven't even written it yet. But you know, it shouldn't take me long to get this where it needs to be, and then fire it off. And I'm just gonna go.
I mean, you come up with the numbers yourself. The stat block looks like your own graphics design. Yeah, what is there to lose?
So my stuff that was planned for the middle of the year for OSE, and God forbid my Dragon Heresy stuff, because I got all kinds of material that I wanted to bring into the 5th edition Fantasy Heartbreaker, including level 6 through 20. And I mean, I have zillions of words written for it from a way back. Anyway, long story less long is the Dragon Heresy stuff is the most imperiled. Right, because that's 5e. It's I used a lot of the SRD, blah blah blah, and I have 1,000 of those in a warehouse in Tennessee because of Irrational Exuberance. My first big hardcover run, I was like, more is better. Yay! If 1,000 is good, 1,500 is better, and I still got 1,000 of them that I haven't sold. You know, so but it's a reasonable rule set, even if it's a fantasy heartbreaker. And you know, I can't remember who it was that said, you know, it's the only version of 5e that they'd play. Maybe that was Matt. I can't remember, but somebody said it. I got a note. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's the only good feedback that I'm going to get on this thing. But anyway, long story. I love that phrase, but you know, basically, I have probably 5 or 6 months and several projects in the interim for Steve Jackson Games before the thing that I feel is safe and the thing that probably would be in jeopardy, depending on how things shake out. So I've got some runway, and I'll jump if something exists that looks 5e-ish. I can jump onto that with the Orc license.
Yeah, that's going to be big. Are you? I mean, we obviously haven't seen that yet because it's going to be a license anybody could attach an SRD to, right? If they want to, essentially.
Correct.
So, I mean, if Paizo comes up with a 2E SRD, which sounds like they probably will, something along those lines, I bet you we could retro clone anything just using that.
Right.
Yeah, if you look at, I had the copy of Pathfinder 2. I bought it in a humble bundle or something, and yeah, I mean, it has all the essential stuff, and we can strip out what we don't need.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's a good basis, and I think everybody will probably use it that way. They might be the first one out with it, right? It sounds like they've been working on something like this anyway, or at least analyzing on this level, so it should be pretty simple to what they put out there.
Right.
And then we're good to go. We're all good to go.
Everybody. And the only thing that, so I have to make a hard call. It's not that hard, right? It's not like my sales velocity makes it feel like this 1,000 books that's sitting up there is giving up revenue as I speak, right? When you sell one of them every year, you're really not looking at anything other than a sunk cost. So if I had to jump Dragon Heresy over to like a Pathfinder 2, which I played for the first time at Gamehole Con when we were there together in 2018 or whatever.
Wow.
And it was fun. I mean, it was a nice, quick, I liked it, and I play GURPS, so I'm used to systems where you have to make a bunch of choices. So if I had to redo that, on the one hand, that's a bunch of work that frankly I don't want to do because it's an opportunity cost, right? I mean, even my 288 page thing is 135, 140,000 words. However, what did Ken Hite say? I lacked moral courage in what rules that I chose to put in and what parts of 5th edition that I'm like, oh, I need to do this because I want it to be similar, and what I just like toss out. So maybe I write like a rune magic system so the Norse thing feels even more Norse. Maybe I just walk away from certain things that I'm like, so if I'm going to do it, I'll go the whole way and use whatever experience that I've got as a game designer and writer to go all in on saying, okay, let me use the new system to really go for it and take advantage of that opportunity. But for now, bringing it back to right now, clearly I think that, I actually published an article on my blog. I'll put it in chat where I sort of broke down my thoughts about that, about the public service announcement or PR flack piece or whatever you want to call it, where I'm like, no. I mean, there are a couple of things that I'm like, okay, that's a legit perspective, and this part is probably true. But I overall, I'm not convinced that once the partner shows an abusive tendency that they will change, that I can change. Right? We're not going to change them. They have to change themselves, and
they can't. They can't not deauthorize at this point. Is that they have for all their plans? They have to basically.
Well, and here's the thing: the gaslighting that went on in their announcement today.
Oh, yeah, bullshit.
That's the nicest way I can put it. Lies, mistruths, revisionist history.
PR statement.
Say it, Eric. Say it. It was
bullshit. All right, it was bullshit. But it's not just it's bullshit because as I'm reading it, and they're like, "Oh, somebody dropped." Well, so I'm not. There's so many people. I'm not even sure who it was.
It was Matt.
Matt. All right. Probably the cat knocked over his computer. But I'm reading this thing, and they're talking about things that are, to me, obvious what they intended in the first place, which included the whatever they called it, the boomerang contract, but the idea that anything that you produce under the license, you own. And they repeat that. You own it, but we have all rights to it. And they're saying, oh, we're not going to do that in 2.0. But the leak I saw online from 2.0 includes that very same paragraph where all your all your IP belongs to us. To use it.
I'm sorry, I just saw the intro to the Roll for Combat video, which had the Avengers Endgame, Avengers Assemble, and it's really quite well done. But now I think we need all your IP are belong to us. That's a long. It's a long video, but it's not like this is not a long topic. So
Yeah.
I bet somebody could do that.
Yeah. But I mean,
If I had minions, I'd sick them on it, but I don't have minions yet. So.
I have minions, but they have different.
Oh,
structures.
I like that, Doug. You don't have minions yet.
Yeah, we'll
Oh
work
yeah.
on it.
Oh, there will be minions.
There will be minions.
There
The
will be
other
minions.
thing too is that this contract, which as again the gaslighting is strong, we don't want all your rights. The same thing though that like as Doug pointed out is part of the DMs Guild. But the DMs Guild gives you two things that you don't get out of the OGL. One, it's a platform to sell. Two, you get access to IP that is not available under the open game license. You can write for Forgotten Realms. You can write for any of the settings that they have published for under 5e is suddenly open. You don't get that under the OGL. The OGL is a restrictive license, okay? And I'm hearing I'm hearing voices that tell me that we think that it's possible that this OGL has a whole morality clause because of not just people like Zach Smith and Raggy and Wenger, but like people like trademark. This is my opinion, folks. People that might be trademark squatting on certain IP and using the 5e SRD in the OGL to make compatible content. So it's all. We don't need to know the reasons other than the fact that the impact is to fuck the producers of content. The fact that they thought, by the way, it's like pissing on my feet and then telling me I don't know what you're talking about. I just spoke.
By the way, that happened when we were rooming together at Gary.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other story, Mike. You don't talk about what happened.
It's what happened after that concerns me. Go on.
Listen, Skeeter was part of that too, so we'll just make sure that nobody gets all the fucking details. But it's such vulgar bullshit that they are trying to shove down your throat, and it's like, wait, we're dropping people left and right, folks. I should be managing that. Somebody's gonna be popping back in, but it's like saying, we just wanted to float the idea of taxing companies for 25%. It wasn't serious. It was so unserious. They negotiated a deal with Kickstarter to lower the amount that Kickstarter would withhold for them.
And Eric, we knew you and I particularly, we knew that was a lie the moment we read it, didn't we? And why? Why did we know it was a lie? Because we know people that were handed that and told sign it or else. That exact document. That is not a draft.
Right.
That was not a draft.
The only part that was negotiable of that contract was the amount that they were going to tax you on over $750. It wasn't negotiable about your content. All your IP belongs to us. That was part of it. They weren't going to back off, and they're not backing off on it now. No matter what they're saying in that fucking, it's not even a reach around, man. The lazy.
There's no reach around. No,
it's a lazy hand job they're giving in today's update. With that, all they're saying, no, it's just to protect us. Really, we don't understand what people thought that we're going to take their content. Why would we ever do that? Because you guys can't create.
Because it freaking said it right there. Anyway, that's why we think so.
Yes. They have such a long tradition of producing genius IP.
Mm-hmm.
Would this be a good time, Eric, to share some good news for once?
Is this about good
news?
Oh,
yeah. Lay it down, Rob.
Go ahead.
Okay, so ever since the DMs Guild came online and the first of the community content programs like the Traveler's Aid Society, I have been complaining that there is a clause, 3 words, that really turned them into predatory programs on, people who wanted the right content for favorite systems. And those word was, they want you to keep whatever work you produce for the program on the program, which, especially as involves a setting like Garanthia or the Third Imperium. Okay, that's going to be fair. Without a traditional license, you're not going to get to play with those things with a no vetting license. But if you make something that's yours and you just happen to add it because it worked well with whatever you were trying to do with the Third Imperium or Galanthia, you were forbidden to use it elsewhere outside of the program, even though it had nothing to do with the IP that you were using. And it would have been locked, and the contract says you have to keep your stuff in there forever.
Right.
And I know this is like a fine distinction, and most of the time when I tell this to people, they go, "Huh? Well, what's the problem?" and stuff like that. But I really strongly felt it was predatory. So then I started working on the program, the different programs, and the only real success I had, and it wasn't even all due to me, which was the Genesis Foundry. And luckily, their community was on the ball, and between all of us, we got Cubicle 7 to say, okay, all right, so if you remove all of our IP, you can take your original stuff and use it for some other system, some other place. And for a long time, they were the only program to do that. And I went after Daniel Fox and Dwyhander and the Hall of Champions by Hero Game. Now with they wouldn't change their license, but since OBS doesn't really run these programs, it's the responsibility of the company. I did get them to public announce to say, hey, if you want to use your stuff, provided it doesn't use any of our IP, you can use it under the program. And finally, just recently, please tell me how to pronounce it. Modidius, the 2D20 guy?
Modiphius?
Modicius. Modicius.
The M guys, that squiggly shit going on. Yeah.
Mod Squad.
There you go.
So they announced their 2D20 world building program. And I thought, you know what? With all this going on with Wizard, I'm going to take a crack at it again. So I did two things. First, as I usually do this, I approached the publisher privately and send them an email. Hey, you're doing this. You got this clause, and this is an effect on people doing stuff. But with OBS, I said, the hell with it. And I went on their Discord server, and I said, could you please remove this from your standard boilerplate that they're all copying and pasting into their program, and laid out the reason why. I was semi-aggressive about it, but I was polite mostly. And 2 days later, they agreed. They said yes. So in OBS, it's going to change their boilerplate, and they said they're going to go to the other program and try to get them to change their license as well. Obviously not Wizard, but the other guy. And Modicius already made the change. So along with the Genesis Foundry, you can write, like Doug, you can write one of your solar modules for 2D20, release it on there. You can only ever release it on there, but it's not going to interfere with any other use of those adventures elsewhere. So
right.
minor win, but it's a win nonetheless.
And it's people who have already made it, like people who have a big following and their Kickstarters pull 600-700 people, 1,000 people, 1,500 people, don't necessarily get how important it is to amortize the art cost and the sunk cost of the writing and the art, especially because that's the really expensive part, over multiple game systems, if you can. Because, boy, that stuff gets expensive fast, and especially if you're working in color, especially if you're outsourcing more than art if you're not an artist, right? I mean, some of you guys are artists, I think. Tim does not have to outsource his maps. Right? I do. Right? And so if you can amortize your maps, your stuff over several systems, you have a much better chance of actually, having a life rather than having a hobby.
Mm. Hey Matt, what's Dyson charge you when you're out when you buy his maps? Put them out there.
Just a random
Couldn't
shot.
resist. Yeah, couldn't resist.
Look at this. Sorry, folks.
What happened?
Well, Tim wasn't a good bouncer today. I'm sorry.
Hey, yo, it's Mario.
Hey.
You know what? Do we know it's really him at any point? People might just be trolling
might
us.
know, yeah.
I don't know.
It's actually me. No,
okay.
It's me, Mario.
It's Mario.
So
it's like a wizard tower. It's like a summoning spell, right?
it needs to be in a board game.
Somebody after the show, you're gonna have to explain this Mario guy.
That's okay.
Do you mind if I speak to Tammy? Tammy's comment for a sec. So I 100% agree with the overall piece. What I'm trying to think, right? Because like any good villain story, so to speak, it makes sense to them, right? I feel entitled to feed my enemies to a wood chipper or whatever because I'm just that cool and they're just that worthless. So I can do this. It is logical to me, right? So what I feel like I'm missing, and I don't want to get into, do you hear the people sing and charge the barricades and rah, rah, rah and all that? But what I feel like we're missing is whatever value proposition that these guys are looking at to monetize D&D to the extent where it would probably come even with Magic the Gathering. Whatever they were looking at, their critical to quality parameters, their stakeholder analysis was done from a perspective where people like me, people like the fans that are signing the petition, whatever, they weren't relevant for some reason. But we can take umbrage to that, and we should. But the question then becomes, from sort of a business strategy perspective, what were they thinking? You can't look at a company. Well, you can look at a company, I guess. I mean, big companies make dumb moves all the time. But from sitting where they were in the C-suite or from wherever, they looked at this and said, our pathway forward is blah. Because underpinning, because spreadsheets, because numbers, because analysis. And everyone looked at that and said, yep, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We're going to make this a culture brand like Marvel. I want people in Avengers sweatshirts, movies, books, TVs, video game, whatever. But they're thinking of something that makes sense to them where the core people on the tabletop didn't enter in. And so one of the things that I think would help us deal with this is to figure out what that was, because right now I don't know precisely.
I know precisely what it was. Okay, and I'm gonna take us all back to a long time ago, back in 2020. Summer of 2020 was a fine summer. It was the summer where it was determined that orcs were not evil anymore. Okay, because this is the point where on some corporate level it has been decided that anybody from prior to 2020, because remember that article from last week that told us about how evil people in old school gaming were. That article goes on with people identifying, because I was, and I'm going to go into topics I hate to get into, but I happen to be an old white guy. He's a young white guy and a young white boy. I like to play dwarves. Not because I identify with any race or I sort of cognate to a fantasy race, but because I like playing dwarves. So playing an elf is not because you are not white. It's because you like playing elves. One has nothing to do with the other. But this article was all about that. And I was reading that article and I was like, this article has more going on to it, and it's got to be a paid piece. That's the PBS article. I was like, this has more going on to it than just this. And what, a week later, the OGL dropped, and the first thing the OGL tells you is basically, we don't want any ifs, ers, or isms in our gaming. So if you could be somebody who could have a description ending in ist or an ed, you were going to be something that was that you were violating the morality clause. Okay, so as a tabletop gamers, we are a liability to their dreams of where the IP is going to go. We are the necessary evil, and by that I mean they would love to clear the plate of the vast majority of us and bring in a bunch of 20-somethings who only play their gaming on VTTs, and let it be their VTT. That's licensed. Players and DMs are going to have to pay the monthly fee. Oh, you got a flame tongue in your adventure? Well, it's another $1.50 to add it to your character if you want to see it on screen. This is what they want, and as gamers, as tabletop gamers, we are not the market that they're selling to. We are the liability they're trying to see how to get rid of and still make the IP relevant.
Now, Eric, that analysis, okay, so 2020 was definitely not a bad year for Hasbro. It was a banner year. So
it's the year they decided to take a moral stand on all the races. Yeah. And they even said, "Oh no, orcs are stand-in for a real life race." I never saw that in my gaming career.
Nope.
But they made those statements.
I understand what you're saying on that, though. But what I don't understand is how they think they can fire the entire audience of their best year ever. I mean, it's just.
Well,
like, I live in a mansion.
I think that's the question, though, right?
I mean, it's going to be minuscule if they succeed with the movie and their Paramount TV series.
Or nothing, Rob.
Hundreds of millions.
We don't matter to them. We're a liability.
The role players don't matter. The people who play the video game that 6Z will be matter, and the people who go to watch the movie and buy the shirts and toys matter, Rob. We as old D&D players don't matter. So go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, they're more worried about one of us somehow saying something and it getting officially branded as coming from D&D and then smearing poo on the D&D name and that going around social media, and then their new VTT gets banned or whatever. I honestly
I think there's more that we're missing here because I mean that could be a factor, but Ryan Dancy, when he had that great talk on roll for initiative or combat,
roll for combat,
combat, he mentioned that about 2 or 3 years ago, somebody looked at Hasbro's book because they're a public corporation and said, "Hey, wait a minute! Hey, all of your 80% of your profits are coming from Wizards of the Coast." And then he looked at Wizards of the Coast and said, "You got D&D going on, and you got Magic the Gathering going on, dude. This one little portion of your company is funding everything." Yeah. And then they started paying real attention.
But that's it exactly, Rob. They've noticed that exactly like you're saying. They understand that this is a great launching pad to make the company explode even more. And so they're trying, at least I think, they're trying to clear all paths that could cause a roadblock to that.
Yeah, they want to be a brand, an image.
It's all of us mean old white guys that play these darn old games.
Basically, they're trying to snip the balls of any people who still can make it,
Oh, you had to bring that up.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying it's a perfect analogy.
Do you really think they're going to find people? They thought they could find people to replace us that fast?
Hell yeah,
they do. They do, Rob. They do. They're already playing it.
5-year-old down the street that's bought every book. How many 5e books have you bought? Have you bought every one?
No, so I think the last one I bought is Saltmarsh, and even before then I wasn't buying every one.
Yeah, your contribution to their profits is negligible.
Yeah.
You don't have a D&D Beyond.
You're not important, Rob. Sorry.
Wow, I feel like I gotta get in here and wrestle with people. Doug, you had a point.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like two things. One, I watch the community, so to speak, that's built around Roblox, right? The game that my kids play, or Genshin Impact, which is ginormous, right? I mean, my 13-year-old will be talking with someone who's about to fail out of college because they play too much Genshin Impact, and I think that's the kind of community where, people are looking and say, that's what we want, right? We want people who are engaged in the game. They're always in the game, et cetera, et cetera, video connection, it's whatever. And Fiverr, frankly, it's a little bit like, what is it from, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? We're mass communicating. When I go to a convention, people are like, oh, you got to go to conventions. I'm like, okay, I'll meet like 12 or 15 people around my table because it's not mass communicating. And so they say, okay, well, first of all, if we can get the players spending money, not just the GMs, well, there's a factor of 5 increase, right? And if we can get, and everyone's waving around microtransactions, and I believe it. And, the kids are always asking me for Roblox skins and stuff, right? But there are ways to monetize where people will throw money at them, right? I mean, cool maps and easy play and this, that, or having a soundtrack because people like immersion, VR, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think that there's all kinds of ways to look at this that don't involve mwahaha, we're going to grind down the little guy. It could be that the cohort that's represented in this group, which, we all look rather suspiciously alike, that's obviously not their target market. And they're looking at their internal data and saying, and that's okay with us. And that's what businesses do. I mean, I'm not saying it's good for me as a gamer, but, if I'm not providing them if what they're serving is not what they want to serve, they're going to change. And if they see an opportunity to migrate to something successfully, they'll do that. I just feel like it's a little.
Doug.
What? No, it's not optimistic for us at all. Right?
You're assuming that they're able to actually perceive those things accurately. I mean, these big companies that we were talking last week, together they've lost $40 billion in income in the past year because they've developed shit shows, shit movies, shit video games. They've dumped tons of crap on the market that nobody wanted to buy, and they're taking a deep soak. Disney
right. No. So
that's amazing.
Right. So I would separate what they're thinking for strategy, or what their consultants or their advisors are telling them for strategy, and the ability to execute on it. Right. This is what we're going to do. Is going to sound like a great thing. There's going to be spreadsheets, and I was in McKinsey for a couple of years, so I did the spreadsheets. And right. So this is something where you can see, at least notionally, understand how the strategy came about, and then, as frequently happens, you proceed to frack it up. Right, but that's execution, and it's like, oh, we've got this great idea. We're going to recycle all the tropes and do nothing new and put it together with a bland script, and we'll give it to good actors who then have to recite wooden dialogue, and that's going to fail because, you take a movie with, Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman and Sam Jackson, and if it's bad, it's not their fault. Right? I mean, they do what they're so that's the thing. Is I'm not saying this is good. I'm not saying it's going to wind up well for them or the hobby or anything, although it may wind up good for the hobby because of what's happening, the stampede out. But I try to put myself in the strategic shoes and say, what is it that they're looking, and I can shriek greed and this and that and the other thing, but I would love to get a large chunk of that money so that I have more freedom to do cool things. That's what we do as businesses. It's just I would really like to understand what analysis led to the strategy that is making the cohort that I like to be part of irrelevant. And I'm going to die anyway one day.
I agree.
Bad
Mike. I just want to say something real quick. Some people are in the chat talking about a challenge this in court. And so I'm just going to throw this out there. So, and I haven't talked to Joe about this. Joe is another lawyer, but every lawyer that I've talked to on this, and you probably know some of the lawyers I know, so I won't mention names, they have said this is absolutely winnable in court. Absolutely. They have no doubt they win this court. The question is, who's going to pay the freight?
And it's not cheap, folks.
You're talking $500K at a minimum, probably.
$500K gets you in the door, and get you the initial filing, what's going to happen? And this is what, if you read Alan Macris's article, Great Arbiter of Worlds on Substack, if you read Alex is a lawyer by trade and education. Alex said, this is not my specialty. Let me go talk to a big New York law firm and get their opinion on this. And they were like, dealing with a law firm, I love them when they're honest up front. They don't give you that little like, it's gonna be okay, don't worry about it. $500 to get you out the door, and they estimate, depending on how good Wizards of the Coast is at slowing the process down, because the United States, it is not necessarily he who has right that wins in a civil case. It is he who can outspend the other to get to the end. And the end in this one is going to cost anywhere between $2 and $2.5 million if it gets that far. So say you find a good judge. Maybe it only costs $1 million out of your money before it gets thrown out. Well, that's $1 million that nobody.
One second, Eric. Did everybody buy their Mega Millions tickets?
Well, yeah, I didn't. If I had $1 million,
I'll see you in a minute. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. That's tonight. Damn it.
But
we also got Vin Diesel and what's that other guy?
Joe Manganiello.
Joe Manganiello. Yeah, he can pay the freight.
Yeah, I don't think that neither one is stepping up and going. Yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, where are all those celebrities now, huh?
Yeah.
They want to be in one of the movies.
I'd like to fund this lawsuit. Y'all give $50. I mean, come on, they're not coming up, and they're not going to fund it. That ain't happening.
I still think this really has to do with where they see the brand going in the future.
Exactly.
And I think they see the tabletop and all of us as expendable.
I mean, let's break it down low to like a kind of a basic thing here. I mean, does it really matter what they really think or how they got to that conclusion at this point? Because you can't trust them anyways. So at this point, nobody's going to trust them. So the reasoning, whatever it is, it doesn't matter anymore. It's done. So what what a lot of the folks are already doing, they're already looking for different paths, doing the lawsuits to get back something now that's already broken. Why spend all that money to? I mean, I know the companies out there.
That's a great point, Matt. That's a great point because I said this to Eric. I've said this before. The OGL had a great run. It was over 20 years. Maybe it's time to move on. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's great. We had a great run. A lot of things was created from it. It's time to move on. Well, let's see what the next great thing is about.
I would agree with you, except we have Doug sitting over there with 1,000 books in his warehouse that he won't be able to sell.
But in fairness, I made that call, right? I made the mistake to over order. And that's. I mean, yeah, I'd love to sell those books. It would represent a significant improvement in my my life. But I mean, So I mean that's cool. I mean, for me at least, I just want the ability to do stuff going forward.
Exactly.
And it seems like migrating over to what we all really thought was a safe harbor. Because let's face it, right? There's the OGL has been argued, I think, fairly successfully as a pretty thin shield legally, right? There's been a lot of good commentary about that. Classic. I'm not a lawyer, but I've had to read contracts in my old job and stuff, and it's a little iffy. However, what it lets you do is I'm going to quote myself because I liked my turn of phrase. So what does it really let you do? It lets you roll forward and not have to worry about getting sued when you're done doing the writing, editing, art direction, art production, layout, printing, transportation, more transportation. God damn it, more transportation because you have to reship the stuff, right? I mean, after all of that, there's so many ways to. I'm going to actually go into the. I have to censor myself because I got kids, but I'm going to just go for it. Right? There's so many ways to fuck up the business part of this, and then after that, and you make your $3 because your Kickstarter needed to be redone and this happened and I needed to reprint and blah blah blah. After you come in with whatever money you do. And most people don't do this for day job, right? It's what they do after their day job for fun. You do all this stuff and you make $3, and then some lawyer comes in and says, "Stop it! You can't do that." Right? So we all, I mean, even companies that have absolutely nothing to do D&D, nothing with D&D, says this is a safe harbor. It lets me protect what's mine. It lets me give away the stuff that I don't care about, that I probably can't do anyway, and I can just go be creative. And that, not legally, but psychologically, is like whipping out your dual wielding and you're ready to go, right? I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to watch my back for that. I just have to watch the other 50 things that I can screw up on. So the thing that an open license lets you do is go create. The thing that a proper system reference dictionary lets you do is what I haven't really done successfully with Dragon Heresy, which is speak to 10,000 people at once with a common rule set. It's a lingua franca that lets you say, okay, I'm going to speak OSE, and if you play Swords and Wizardry, you're going to look at it and say, I got this. I don't even have to convert. Right. And so if people are like, I mentioned, I'm going to maybe do Worlds Without Number. And then all of a sudden the people who also play that come out of the woodwork and like, oh, thank goodness, I'm glad you're going to support this. Right. And you can't get that with the spectacularly fragmented, like it's like safety glass after an accident. You got all these little things. Right. I play GURPS. Right. I mean, I write for GURPS. I'm one of the only people who can do that. I know what a fragmented market looks like because I play in a generic system that's small, where everyone has their own microcosm, right? GURPS is a game design system. It is not a game. So everyone has their own ideas of what it should be, to the point where like, oh, look, I'm going to do, where is it? Where's my thing? Right?
Oh, he's pulling a Rob.
I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do a 192-page bestiary that was upside down. That was my my take on kind of GURPSifying the SRD. I rewrote the whole damn thing, and all the stats are mine, so crack off. And I put all like Norse names in it that are like really bad Google Icelandic. So this was mine, absolutely front to back, and it's gorgeous, right? I love it. It's one of my proudest things that I've done. But something that has been called for, oh my God, this is what the game needs since 2004. Got 685 people. I convert a couple of OSE modules, and 1,400 people show up, 800 buy, and another 1,100 don't. Where should I spend my time? In the common lingua franca that the OGL lets me go create and the SRD lets me speak to. That is so important, and it's going to get created by Paizo and the Defend the OGL group and Open Gaming, and this is going to form into something else, and then we'll just all go there, and hopefully breadth of applicability. And like, if I were going to do this, if I were going to structure this, I'd have like an OGL. Sorry, God damn it! I'd have an OSR, like a 1E building block, and then a 3E building block, and then like a fork. Like you put this module on it, and then you have a core game, and you can play a Pathfinder-ish thing, or you do advantage and bounded accuracy. Like you have the bounded accuracy fork. You have the Pathfinder, lots of bonuses fork, and you have the we're going to kill you when you're going to always play a second level character because you're just dead. You got the OSR fork, right? So you don't have to worry about level 6 because you're going to be dead long before then, right? So you can easily have all of this stuff with a common thing, and everyone's going to. I really think that it's going to wind up best for us. Yeah. But and then it's kind of, we have a mutual irrelevance society. We're irrelevant to Wizards, right? And Wizards is irrelevant to us, and for us, that's fine.
Yeah,
right?
and I want to echo what Tim said, and now what you're saying is, even though I'm interested in hashing out the motivated Wizard, my feeling, this is the second go around for us, third if you count the crash after the D20 glut, because Wizard deliberately introduced 3.5 early.
Oh, that's right.
3 strikes, you're out. Let's make our own path. Okay, fine. Let them have their movie. Let them have their 20-something odd, their whatever, where they think they can grab 20-year-old people from. Let them all have that. Let's take back tabletop role playing for ourselves, and we will just have our niche. we'll have some big players, we'll have a whole lot of small players, and we have a whole bunch of guys doing the stuff on their own, like me, Tim, Matt, and we'll live our lives separately.
I'd like to. Somebody had that quote you had from Alex Macris to Eric.
Mhm.
I have. So I talked to a lawyer, a friend of mine who you may know, but look, small companies sue big companies all the time, and they win a lot of times. It's not just a numbers game. You can say, well, there's no way we could possibly beat this giant company. It happens. It happens all the time. Small companies do beat big companies. I think he was being very unnecessarily pessimistic in that reply because the lawyers that I had talked to said, yeah, we'd love this. But as everybody is saying, as Doug said and Robert, do you really want, and Matt said, is this something you really want to spend that much time and effort dealing with? Because look, this probably wouldn't come down to a court case that was won or lost. It would be a settlement, like almost 95% or 99% of cases are. It would be a settlement point. They say, yeah, you can use the OGL. Well, great. Then you got the OGL back and you spent $2 million. I mean, is it really worth it at that point? Like I'm saying, it had a great run. Let's move on to the next great.
Okay, all right. Hey, let me ask you this, Bad Mike. Even though what we do isn't on that level, are you willing to burn Homer just because it's too difficult?
Well,
the Iliad, the Odyssey, just burn them. It's too difficult to deal with. I could never learn Greek in the.
Well, I can't, so I can say that. Are you talking about a translated version of Homer? Oh, that I can read. But if you're talking
okay, but here's the thing, Mike. You're right. Well, there is a decision that we have to make, and my call. Let's preserve the heritage that we built. Now, if it's going to cost $10 million and our house and our home, well, maybe we're just going to have to let it go. But if it's like Ryan Dancy said, that we can make a quick and dirty under $1 million where the judge is only having to rule on one point, can you revoke the OGL? Then maybe it's something worth pursuing rather than discourage.
Rob, somebody still may pursue it. I'm just saying is that I think a lot of these companies, I mean, I know, I'm Frog Eye Games in particular, that there's mouths to feed here. There's people to deal with so we've got to negotiate this new landscape that's popping up that says that you can no longer do OGL, and we don't really know how that's going to. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what is going to happen at this point. At this point, are we willing to say, okay, we don't know how we're going to make money for the next 5 years. Let's go ahead and finance a court case that might cost a lot of money, even with a lot of people involved. There's just too much uncertainty there. It's easier just to go forward and say, look, here's something we can do right now that can keep artists and creatives and designers and writers employed. And sure, if the opportunity presents itself, it'd be great. But it's just, is it worth that fight? I mean,
well, here's the thing. For you in your position at Doug said something to me 2 days ago that really struck home for me, because I was kind of talking about my situation. Then he said, yeah, but Rob, this is not my circumstances. And you laid it out, and that really, oh shit. And I think you're in a similar situation, Frog God's in a similar situation. So now that I have time to think about it, I think you two should do what you need to do to keep things together. If that means going your own way, making up your own system, and and while those of us who are bigger and smaller who can take the risk and stuff, we'll fight that fight. And guess what? If we win, we can come back. The open content will be open to the two of you for your project 2 years down the line. But if we don't win, you're also safe because you got your own thing now. So that's my answer. It's not an ideal answer, but what is?
But my question then also becomes this: like, lawsuits don't move very quickly in general. Okay, that's just the nature of the beast. So while you're fighting this lawsuit, are you producing under ORC and a different SRD? Are you writing stuff and producing stuff that's system neutral? Because you got to keep product going. And to spend money on a suit, and Woods of the Coast knows this. That was certainly part of if any part of this was planned out, it was this. They're going to realize that it's near pointless to sue us because it's going to either take up resources that can be used to produce product, or it's going to take up time that could be used to produce product, and they're going to have to find other solutions. But that being said, Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to go to court because if they go to court, they could lose a lot more than just the OGL.
The
which is why it would never go to judgment. They would at some point they would say, you know what, here, what do you want? Here, OGL, boom, there you go. Because nobody's going to fight this to the end of the line. Because
but the scary thing there for them is that, let's say you have the open D&D movement, and there's a group of people, and there's a license into this and to that, and we look at and I'm including myself in that because I feel like that's where I'm going to wind up. We look at that future and say, we got this. This is going to work. It's going to be a little rocky, but this is going to work. And then you have somebody, Zopi, Pizal, whatever, says, I'm not going to settle. They've juggled nuclear fire, and we're going to take this to judgment. Right? Settle requires agreement, right? It's like going on a date. You got to ask and you got to say yes. I was involved in a lawsuit once a long time ago, and the insurance companies had to agree that, yes, here's the offer. Yes, this is acceptable. And we don't want to risk either paying out $1 zillion or getting zilched. So, I mean, that's the thing, is if you've got someone who's willing to take it all the way and not settle, that's the scary.
Key. Other way, you think
it's great.
Look, that's why they would make the terms so wonderful. You'd have to take it. They say, "Here's what do you want? Here's everything you want." We don't want to.
But what would they keep?
And look,
not the. What would they keep in that scenario?
Well, okay, I'll give you an example. Like, so here's what's going on for Frog Guy right now, and this is just, I cannot get into any specifics. This is general. We have a warehouse full of stuff we published. First of all, we have 22 years of material that is threatened to basically we can't publish anymore. 22 years of material. So that's all our backstock. We have backstock. We have a warehouse full of backstock that we might not be able to sell anymore. We have projects, Kickstarters that are in the hopper. Whisper and Venom, Sprinters. I mean, all these Kickstarters that are, what's going to happen to them? I mean, they're already gone out. They've been paid for, and they're ready. We're going to be allowed to distribute them. So immediately, that's what we have to look at immediately. Is that what can we? So because if it's just about a new rule set, that's not an issue. We have writers. Our writers are good writers. They could start writing for a new rule set tomorrow. That is not a problem. And the stuff that we already have finished, it's in the hopper, we could convert it to a generic rule set. That's not the issue. The issue is, what about all this stuff we have that we rely on? And that is our backstock, our back catalog.
I was telling this Eric the other day in the bar. I was telling Eric, I said, who's going to get fucked at these, like you and Hyperborea, Jeff Cellini, Hyperborea Games? You just come out with a new 3rd edition. If they can't sell this stuff, you know who's going to make out? Believe it or not, most of the people in the country, because they'll have to send it in, sell it en massive bulk shipment to Noble Knight Games for pennies on the dollar. Noble Knight Games sells it cheap to us.
Well, I tell you,
that's how it'll work.
Joe, conventions would be awesome for the next 5 years because that's where everybody's going to bring their stock.
Yeah.
Books. I mean, conventions would be great. You go to a convention. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll give you an example. Probably our best known, our signature work is Rapinathic, right? The giant mega dungeon.
Yeah, I got it. It's
the Swords and Wizardry version was published in 2012. So we haven't had an OSR version for 10 years now. The 5e version was just published a couple years ago. What do we do with Rapinathic? I mean, do we have to? What do we do with it? I mean,
okay, so let's play the game of what if. But I mean, if you can't talk about it, Bad Mike, I understand. But say next week, Wizard continues to be chaotic evil and says we revoke
the
OGL 1.1a unequivocally.
Definitely lawfully
innuendo shit. Yeah. What can you do as Fraud God Games to survive that?
I can't answer that. I wish I could. I mean, I don't even, because I'm not upper management. I don't know, but that's what I'm saying is that's what we're looking at now. That's why it'd be great to think about suing them. And Lord knows I would. Like I said, the lawyers that I know, that Eric and I know, have said this case is a slam dunk. This is it's a win. It's winnable.
Yeah, but
it's
it's
absolutely
winnable, but you got to pay to win. That's the problem with the US
right,
court
and
system.
that's the problem. While we're paying to win, we've got all these other issues we
Yeah.
have to deal with. What are we going to do with our backstop? What are we going to do with it?
You got, as Eric said, 500 to start, a couple million to keep it going. Wizards of the Coast will drag this shit out until the dawn of time, Rob. Until the end of time.
And then at the end, they'll just settle with you. Let's okay, here, yeah, you can have what you want. Here you
that's
go.
it.
You
Oh,
say that it's like a law of the universe.
It is, Rob. I see it every goddamn day in court. I see it. This is a law of the universe. It's how lawyers work. I was told this before I
drag it out for a decade. Half of us will all be dead.
That's the other thing. Nobody will give a shit. Rob, this is how it works. You pile bullshit on top of bullshit on top of bullshit until the other side completely shatters under the weight of it. Morally, spiritually, financially, physically, mentally, every fucking way until they're dead. And then you finally say, I'll buy your stock at list price to Bad Mike. Bad Mike's like, oh, my kids are starving. I must take the fucking money. He gets this and he writes a letter, an agreement at the end that says, shall not to close the terms. That's how it works.
I know how it works. Back in '90, my family lost our business because of a fucking patent lawsuit. Okay, I know how it works, Joe. But what I'm contending you're acting like it's a you just handed me a random table and all the numbers say you're fucked in a lawsuit. And
you're fucked on the cost.
I believe that the odds of that happening are 100%.
No, 99.999. That's about it. I mean, this
well,
is how they work.
I disagree that the odds are that high.
All right, so here I'll interject, and I'm not like unlike Mike, I am not part of the company, but I have spoken to a number of lawyers on this, and I do know that the thought is if it is not thrown out, or if there isn't like a hold put on it immediately, some kind of injunction. It is cost prohibitive for companies to get involved in this. Now, it's not saying that filing is a bad thing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you could file and, hey, the judge could be like, oh, yeah, Rob, yeah, you know what? 90% chance you're going to win, so we're going to put this whole shit on hold. I'm not saying that couldn't happen. What I'm saying is if that doesn't happen, nobody in this room and nobody that we know is going to be able to afford this. Humpty Dumpty is going to fall, and the pieces won't get put back together because Wizards of the Coast is the bully. Doesn't make them right. Doesn't put them in a lawful position. It puts them in an abusive position. But they know that, and they're banking on that. Now, listen, somebody with $1 million in their pockets might step up and say, "Hey, this is a great. You know what? I really like the OSR, and I'm a gamer, and I happen to be a multi-million-dollar, millionaire, and I
win that lottery. Buy those lotto tickets, fans. Buy those Mega Million tickets.
It's an uphill battle.
You need the money.
Where you are literally losing money with every step you're walking up that thing. It's a cost analysis, and
I know my family cheaped out in the patent lawsuit, and we paid for it. I mean, we didn't have the money to begin with, but we found a lawyer that really hated the company that sued us, and he gave us a cut rate, and we really tried, and there was one misstep that wasn't really anybody's fault. It was a communication error, and thus that part of it was
you're arguing against your own position there, because that absolutely can happen.
But here's the thing: I've seen people now. Since then, I followed open source, okay, and all the lawsuits that surround it. I've seen cases like SEO versus IBM where what you guys described totally took place. But there are other cases like Jacobson versus Katz where that wasn't the case. It's a mixed bag. That's all I'm saying. It's not this 100 or 99.9% odds.
Ask Joe. So, because here's the deal. It depends on your venue. It depends on the judge.
On the judge,
there's so many little things. You just don't know how things are going to. Things could fall your way. Absolutely. I mean, you may. Let's say you filed a case, and within 6 months, Wizards wants to settle with you because they're like, you know what? we don't want to deal with this. And because I tell you what, the one thing you would have working for you if you did have a lawsuit against Wizards is they don't want this publicity going in the 50th anniversary.
Movie time?
They do not want every story about Hasbro and WotC during the 50th anniversary year of Dungeons & Dragons to also have a 3 or 4 lines of the story about how they're being sued by blah blah blah. They just don't want that. They may give it to you after, like I said, if they see you're determined after 6 months or a year, they may just say, whatever, just take it, get out of here. But once again, there's other more important things to worry about. I mean, that's just not. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm sure most people that are in gaming aren't worried about that. They're worried. Look at the little guys. Look at the Greg Gillespies and the Skeeter Greens and the I mean, they're worried about getting their stock out. Look at Doug. I mean, you have stock you want to move. That's what you're worried about right now. You're not worried about proving WotC wrong.
Greg,
that's right. I mean, there's 2 parts of that, right? One is I do have 1,000 books sitting in a warehouse in Tennessee that I would love to move. That still means it's up to me to make the case, right? I mean, that's a marketing failure on my part, not a WotC conspiracy or some weird cultural thing. That's just I didn't make the case. When I first made the case, I was way too small, and I've gone away from it. So I want the opportunity to make the case again, and that was a part of my strategy for the next 2 years. At some point, because when I laid out all the projects I wanted to do, it was like, oh, let me see what I want to do this year. That's 2 years worth of work.
Great.
I want to have the opportunity to make that case. And if I'm not allowed to sell that because I haven't signed on to some new agreement,
right,
but those books are very clearly under that agreement, then that just becomes probably just a write-off.
As a loss. I mean, Greg, where are you at with this? I know you don't have stock, right? You just have all print on demand. But what are you thinking about doing?
I'm thinking about doing jack shit. I have no product anywhere that uses Wizards of the Coast IP in any way. Everything is written completely on mine. It's only written on an OGL in the same way that some stuff is put in there like in Star Wars D20 or whatever. They have something in there just to cover it. Whatever. There's nothing in the book that lines up IP wise. I'm not worried about them at all. If the day comes when they say we are going to steal Greg's stuff and we're going to sell it to the whole world and make a huge profit, hey, fuck, good luck, buddy. More power to you. I'll write.
Are you going to re-upload your books without the OGL then?
No, I'm not scared of them. If they move, there are 300 people with more skin in the game than me before they get to my ass. I'm not worried about it at all.
They might come to your ass to make an example of you.
You know what I mean? And that's a great point, Greg. And that's another thing too. And I think that's the Matt Finch strategy. It sounds to me like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to do this, and we'll wait and see what you do. Are you actually going to spend the time and effort to come after me? And they may not. They may not. Look, is Matt Finch going to cut into how much is Matt Finch going to cut into their bottom line? No. And they probably have a bean counter there saying, okay, it's going to cost this much to do this and that. It's not worth our time.
There's a chart floating around that tallied every known figure the guy could handle on, and he applied the royalty rates on the leaked document. It came out to $1 million total.
So that's actually one of the interesting things, Mike, that you touch on, which is honestly, if you're gonna stick a member in a meat grinder, why do it over 45 cents? I mean, seriously, right? If we're
write that down, Doug. I like that one.
If we are this irrelevant that the entire future strategy of the brand can leave the tabletop segment aside, why do they even care? Actually, I'm sorry. I know exactly why they care. It's because they don't want somebody to fork off with the. I didn't really mean to make that a pun, but sure, why not? I don't want somebody to fork around with the with the intellectual property and wander off with something that is important to their brand. But even so, the tabletop part of it, even the VTT part of it or whatever, as long as you don't get into crazy stuff, it's just irrelevant financially, based on what I can see. But I'm absolutely 100% sure that I'm not seeing everything, which is why I
don't forget about the
equivocate a lot.
power. Don't forget about the power of making an example of somebody and scaring the shit out of other people by making an example of that person, suing him for hundreds of thousands, and everybody sets to sit back and say, "Shit, I could be next."
Right?
That's
absolutely
the thing.
there's a yeah. No,
I agree with you. There's a timeline out there where that will happen.
But the beginning shot is going to be a C&D, right? So anybody that's small like that's going to see the C&D and run off, with the tail feeling. So I don't think they'd have to sue and make an example. Anybody, I think they'd send a C&D letter. You'd see it and go, "Oh, it's Watsy. See you later." And
what you do is you sue three people. Three little shitheads that don't matter, and that's not going to amount to much, to make an example of, so people identify with them, right? And then about 3-4 days after you sue these people very publicly, you send 500 C&Ds. Oh shit! I'm next on the list. God damn! I gotta.
No, you don't send 500.
Joe, that can backfire.
You go to Roll20 now, because it's not OBS anymore. You go to Roll20 and say, "We'll see you in court unless you clean up your online store."
Mm-hmm. No, I'm gonna agree with Joe on this one. First, you target 3 people, and then you target 500 more. And the reason for that is so that there's no 1 or 2 people for the community to say, "I will give you 1 million people give you $5 to do the legal fund." Yeah. You want it spread out so you don't know who to target.
Oh, that's a good point. By the way, Stuart makes a good point. I think Woods of the Coast is word that they'll bring out their new movie, and Raggy or Wenger or Zach Smith or some other schmuck and I don't think they're schmucks. I'm saying Woods of the Coast.
Just some other random person. Yeah.
We'll make a sexy version of the movie, or sexy, or over the top, or whatever of the movie and the characters. And you know what? This is obviously about protecting their IP. And it's not the IP that's in the rule book. It's the IP that's on the big screen that's coming up. And that is certainly what they're worried about on some level. But now it was also
parody. Parody is established law.
But that's, again, if you can't.
I'm not worried about that. They're worried about social media.
If you can under 2E, under the 2.0 OGL, they can reject it for whatever reason they want.
Right. I mean, it definitely gives them control over that. And one of the I'm going to stay on my point, and then I'll do a different point. But the one of the interesting things, though, of course, is there are pornographic versions of Lucasfilm stuff out there. One of them is actually supposedly better written than. That's not hard, but. There's some of these more stuff, right? So it was like, oh wow, somebody actually put thought into this.
Notice he added supposedly in there just to cover himself.
I caught that too.
Look, cat. Right. But that I don't believe that sort of thing touches a brand at all. Everyone knows where that is, right? Nobody's going to mistake. Nordland Sex Island or whatever. Nordland is my homebrew Norse, but nobody's going to mistake that for something that I did. They're just not, right? And all you say is, actually, you say the song, wasn't me, right? And that's I think that's the end of that. I mean, nobody's going to get brand confusion over that sort of thing. I just don't find that a compelling argument. So, Rob, I'm actually agreeing with you, but from a different perspective.
Sure. What I'm saying is that if under the 2.0 or the 1.1, or they have that right of rejection.
It's not going to matter with a parody because they're not going to publish it under any license. Right. You can do parody without a license. That's the point.
But remember, 2.0, if you were publishing under that license, requires the ampersand or whatever their marketing piece is going to be.
Eric, are you approaching this from the perspective that we would actually sign on to this crap, pile of steaming crap? No way.
But the host thinks that everybody will because, and by the way, and we haven't even discussed this part, that branding, that ampersand means that they get to give the image that they are producing all this work that's official, ampersanded, D&D material that they have nothing to do with, other than Oh yeah, okay, we can approve this one, but they have to put our ampersand on the cover.
Yeah, but let's see, is that going to work? There, can that
I like
focus?
that. I like that. Hold on, let me. I'll
Can
hold
we
it for a
zoom in?
minute. I'm going to give you a
Just a
solo.
minute.
There we go.
There we go. Right, it doesn't take much to have a logo. That doesn't mean anything. It can mean anything you want. Right? Maybe it's 5C. You know the slash. Right? Anybody can have a logo that tells what you want.
Oh, look at the kitty.
Yeah, Kitty is. Fortunately, I've got like 3 layers. I'm really bad about clipping this one's claws, so I'm really happy that I've got 3 layers of clothing on right now.
Hey, can I bring up something that's referred to what Joe said? That so I don't know if anybody's familiar. If you're not familiar with this, go look up when RIAA started suing people who were downloading music illegally.
Yes.
That happened 20 years ago. It was it's an amazing part of our history. They at one point they were sending out, I think, 15,000 lawsuits a month. They were suing anybody that downloaded anything illegally. They were getting judgments anywhere from $200 to $200,000.
Yeah.
And what it ended up happening was they started suing grandmothers and single mothers that were laid off from their job. And the most famous case, they sued a deceased grandmother who is already dead for $150,000. It backfired spectacularly to the point where 5 years after the lawsuit started, more people were illegally downloading than were before, because it was the shark of the water effect. They said, well, the shark's not going to get me. It's going to get that guy over there. It didn't deter anybody. And the RIAA, after a few years, just stopped doing it. But they were winning lawsuits. It just was an awful look. It looked terrible for music in general. The music industry asked RIAA to stop doing it because they were tired of the story of the month being, grandmother gets sued for $200,000. Single mother laid off from job has to pay $20,000. Judges were throwing the judgments out. That's how ridiculous some were. They would win there was one famous case. They won a judgment against a single mother of 5 who lost her job, and they won like $20,000. The judge threw it out. He just said, "Nah, you're not paying this."
We're not
and
doing
so
this.
that's the one problem you have if you start doing this mass bullshit suing. We're going to send 8 million to cease and desist. That would be a horrible look for D&D's 50th anniversary, because every story about D&D's 50th anniversary is going to have
What?
No, Matt. Wizards of the Coast caught up with Bad Mike.
The orbital, if we were on a Steve Jackson Games thing, we would say the orbital mind control lasers got him.
Yeah. You got frozen there, Mike.
You got frozen, Mike.
I got killed in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry. But the point is, it's a real bad look. It's a really bad look. I think they'd like to avoid that. I really think they'd like to avoid that if they could. But that's
look how stupid
I know.
they are,
the only C&D I've ever known, I'm sure there's been more. Oh, I know. Well, the only C&D that I know of WotC was the diecast games when they released a module that said Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, the one. I had to sign. Okay,
if you're going to poke the bear like that, you're going to get, if you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. And they took their stuff down. And all they got was a C&D also. They just got, look, please destroy your stock of whatever, which Doug bought all their old stock. But
if they had good PR instincts, this whole shit show wouldn't be happening right now, though.
That's true too. Now I will say that I'm not underestimating their stupidity. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I guess the question would be, right? If theoretically, if you're going to do something and you've got everyone's going to hate something, right? So what groundswell were they expecting in rolling this out that would have swamped out? I mean, maybe nothing could have swamped out what actually happened because it was such an egregiously bad contract.
Yeah.
But they all start that way. I tell a story about a business partner that I had in the tech company where like every single, like I'm looking at this contract, I'm like, I can't, and this is a vendor that we're trying to buy stuff from. I'm like, I can't take this to the vendor. I have to work with these people. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's like, you give us your stuff for free and we'll pay you eventually. That's not a contract. That's a robbery. And he's like, I don't believe in win-win. And so you go to that then you argue, then they come back and say, okay, well, you're going to pay us 100% first and maybe you'll get your stuff. and you know eventually they have their fun and you come to something and then the engineers talk. But you know, I mean, the thing is that a lot of these contracts start egregiously bad. But if they were just like, we are not negotiating on anything but this one number, then no wonder people jump ship, because that's not how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. So here's a little inside baseball. Having knowing people in the industry, Wizards of the Coast, has relax. She's annoyed now that I'm trying to put my keyboard back on the like Wizards of the Coast has personal relationships with people obviously outside of Wizards of the Coast. We're all gamers, businesses, no businesses, and when you on a person, not me, but when, for example, on a personal level, your friends at Wizards of the Coast are touting the company line in personal communications with you, that we don't understand why you're so upset about this. This is a perfectly reasonable contract, and it's just protecting our rights. When it's the actual opposite of what everybody's been operating on the last 22 years, it tells you that either they believe the shit they're saying, or they got to believe the shit they're saying because they have no job otherwise.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. But there's no way you can go into this and unless they hired the same a research firm that like Putin did before going into Ukraine.
He always goes back to the
And
US.
that worked out well.
Yeah. All right. Don't worry, comrade. It'll be 3 to 9 days.
We'll be
Nine
through by
months-
April.
9 months later.
If this becomes the Vietnam, Afghanistan, Ukraine, WotC 2.0, this is not a little bighorn, right? This is not a list of spectacular successful strategies here. I think Andrew is correct in about one of the damage. Some people who were really either implicitly or explicitly behind. Let's say they're behind Dungeons and Dragons, right? I mean, there are people whose, and I don't mean this in the usual cultural war way, but there are people whose identity is very much, I'm a 5e player or whatever, right? I'm a D&D player.
Yeah.
And by kind of getting smacked, sorry, Kat, I'm not smacking you, but kind of getting smacked hard like this, that's a fool me twice, shame on me kind of thing. And it's we don't have to convince the industry, the third party, but we don't have to convince people. We just have to show them the contract. Right. It's like a chain. It's like a nuclear chain reaction. It's self-sustaining, right? And then this new thing, like I wrote an article on my blog, where in order to prepare for this, so I wasn't just I went and sort of looked at the PR and said, how does this affect me? Whatever. It's terrible. I mean, it's not helping, like my family always says to me, Dad, be quiet. You're not helping. Right. So Daddy's not helping.
So I want to
Daddy's not helping again. Daddy's pouring gasoline on the fire again. And we know how well that worked out.
Didn't it blow up last time on you, literally?
Yeah. That's a different story. But I understand. No. So actually, the story here is that in 2015, I was doing some gardening and decided that these thorny weeds had to go. Naturally, I reached for gasoline, poured it a little bit on the fern, the leafy stuff, and every redneck video on YouTube that you see that ends in somebody across the field in a fire explosion is because you're pouring a volatile fuel on a plant, because it vaporizes and then you have a fuel air explosive. So that's what I did to myself. However, as I was doing this, I was thinking to myself, I have in the past done the thing where you put a match out in gasoline, because as long as you don't get the heat, the liquid quenches the flame and it's fine, right? So what I didn't count on is the actual state of the fuel as I was doing what I was doing, and then boom, I blew up my deck, I blew up myself, I shattered my heel into 6 pieces or whatever. But this is the analogy is pretty good, because
I can't. This is a greater story to fall off a fucking ladder.
Right.
It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
I failed my IQ roll and made my health roll. But that's the thing, is that what Wizards was expecting was, I can put the match out in gasoline. What they got was not that at all. It's the stuff that goes on YouTube and is legendary. So that's I mean, that's the thing, is that I'm curious, and I where's the carrot, right? Where's the thing that where's the 10 or 1? I mean, not us. Where's the 10 to 1 or the 20 to 1 that's going to say, this is what I'm tangibly getting for this thing. This is the future that I'm looking forward to. But where was that? Where was their strategy to show the next thing? I mean, it wasn't there.
They don't care about us, man. That's why.
No, but they need to care about someone.
Right.
They need to find the 2 or 3 people to replace each one of us that leaves.
Right, but
where was that? That needed to precede this, not come after.
No, it doesn't, because the movie is going to bring him in.
That's it. Oh, D&D. Oh, there's a game for it. Well,
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking. I'm not saying it's true.
I mean, if it's a good movie,
yeah, it's gonna suck though.
I mean, did anybody at Wizards of the Coast think they could do both?
Well, maybe you don't see this. Do you play video games that you have a lot of mods for, Douglas?
as one might imagine, my time on the computer is mostly spent writing, but I do play some XCOM 2. I do play some XCOM 2 with Long War on there. So
there's a lot of video games where there's people that make tons of mods on the side, and in general, the IP is kind of, hey, you could make this derivative, but you can't get paid for it. So you go onto Steam, you download. You play RimWorld, there's a whole bunch of people that have made RimWorld mods, and you can just pick and choose whatever. And this is true for indie games, for huge powerhouse games like Civ 6, where they don't try to make money off of these mods. But I think somebody at WotC thinks that if they can steal the IP of all these people making mods and then turn them into downloadable things through this VTT, so that we got Tim writes a little adventure where you're fighting a hobo and a giant by the side of the road. They steal Tim's IP because he's published it somewhere, and then they take it and they drop it into the VTT as a $1 buying encounter thing. That's what I think that they want. Why would they want to steal all these people's IP? Why would they want to do this? Because they want to sell it for $1 a unit.
Right.
As a downloadable item, and so like you'll develop something, whether it's a graphic or an adventure or a module or even just an encounter or a monster, and they'll steal it and sell it for 50 cents to somebody else, and they'll sell it 10 million times for 50 cents, and then they'll make a fuck ton of money.
Greg, under the OGL 1.1, and I'm assuming under the 2.0, you can only produce physical books and static PDFs. In other words, EPUBs and PDFs. You can't static electronic. You cannot, by their definition, do anything with a VTT under the 2.0. You can do it outside the 2.0, but on their virtual tabletop, third-party mods are likely going to come from them. So either they take it outright, or it's going to be like the DMs Guild, where they get a 50% cut on everything you make on their VTT, and that's where they're seeing their money coming from. And
they don't have the manpower. It's just going to be a DMs Guild.
350 people were hired to be their programmers. Mm-hmm. That is what they planned on. It's not manpower. Manpower right now, their manpower is rewriting the OGL, but I mean, they're hiring 350 tech people. Customer service, I am sure, programmers, 350 people for their VTT and D&D Beyond.
And just for comparison, as part of the my research, I guess I would say, right? WotC, the side of WotC, at least as far as I can tell, has about 1,500 employees. So adding 350 people in this economy, this is a big bet. That is a 20% expansion in their workforce. I mean, especially if they're based in Washington State, that is a big bet. So that might be future, but why now? Right? I mean, this just might be a term. I mean, why? Right? I mean,
capitalize on the 50th anniversary and the movie.
Well,
they want all the money for that stuff.
But here's the
Right,
thing,
right, but you can
why
get
the
all-
OGL now?
Right.
Again,
no, that's my thing exactly.
Yeah,
why
exactly.
now? Why not
And
just
that-
wait until the video game is moving?
or,
right?
Or wait until you actually
Right.
are releasing one D&D. For a
Right.
5e, we had to wait 15 months to get an OGL.
Yeah.
15 months for the 5e
Right.
OGL,
True.
and before you got the OGL, you know what they told you? They told you, well, we're giving you a free basic set. Isn't that what you want? Because they thought that you wanted the OGL for a free SRD so you could play D&D without having to buy the rules. That was there, and they were like, you actually want this OGL thing? And they had to fight it out. My understanding from my sources at the time is that it was a big in-house fight over the OGL for 5e because there were the suits that didn't understand it, and the gamer management that's like, this is what we do. This is how our community, our game thrives. We're going through the same thing here, but we saw what? God, I can't remember his name now. The president got booted back in November.
Ray Winiger.
Ray Winiger, a gamer, lifelong gamer. Guy was back with Mayfair Games. I remember his name on some products like
Really?
DC Heroes. So
there's a bit of
so
boy, you wound up in an interesting spot.
So he was a lifetime gamer, and whether he walked out or was forced out in November, you never know. I'm guessing he was walked out because he was forced out because he's been public. He said, you can't do this. You can't revoke the OGL. This isn't. So they didn't want him in. They wanted somebody from Microsoft sitting in that spot who understands microtransactions, who understands multi-level crap, and doesn't understand the tabletop game. Because again, the tabletop game is not a priority for Wizards. We like to think it is because we are gamers. And we like to think it is because for years it was. But they are transitioning to the idea of this, three-pronged, four-pronged marketing behemoth that the IP is supposed to fill. And our game, the OGL, the SRDs that we have used as publishers, players, gamers, is an albatross for them.
Well, the other thing, I mean, you're asking why now, Eric. I think the reason why now is because of what we're seeing. Look at the one thing they pointedly did not even reference in any way, shape, or form about in the whatever the hell came out today was that they didn't say if they were or were not going to deauthorize 1.0, 1.0a. Right. They want to deauthorize it. And what does deauthorizing that have the effect on now? Nobody invests more money in it. Nobody invests more money in it in 2 years from now when the shit gets released, or a year and a half, whenever it is, for 2024. Then what you're going to have is a wide open market with only them left standing. Everybody else will have had their backs broken. Well, and so you have a wide open market, only them and a bunch of poor people who are still crying because they can't eat because they got no money.
Right, and a bunch of serfs, a bunch of people.
That's it.
The Borg has come in and they've assimilated.
Exactly.
And that's the reason why we didn't get the announcement that we were supposed to get about all these companies that signed up, because all this, they assumed Kobold Press had no choice. Yeah. Kobold's business is built on 5e. They had no choice. Kobold was going to go along, and no inside information on this one, but I'm going to guess for Kobold, just like Joe Goodman, who earlier today made his announcement that they're going to go along with the new Orc license.
Yeah.
Joe Goodman got screwed on the 4th edition game system license.
Yeah, he dropped $5,000 or something, didn't he? He lost $5,000 into that shit.
Yeah, that's why we have the DCC RPG. Wolfgang is not stupid. Wolfgang's success isn't so much because he writes for 5e, it's that he writes for 5e, and in the IP that he has created for that system is his success. Was it the Midgard world, his setting, his support material? So to give all that over to Wizards of the Coast without any other further compensation other than, well, you can write for 2e. What more do you want? You can, under our OGL, you can keep taking your writing for 1D&D. And I'm sure they were willing to give him concessions on the percentage of royalties. That didn't seem to be the final block for anybody. The final for the people that were really up there was what about my IP? And they're like, well, that part's not negotiable because, maybe we'll work on products that are on the same trajectory. And, it's not going to be who gets to the door first. It's going to be ours.
Look, I think besides I'm sorry. Besides Wolfgang, I think they really wanted to get Matt Colville, and they apparently made a pretty hard push for him. But I'm sure he looked at that and said, "What are you giving me? I'm already making $1 million a Kickstarter. You're just talking about taking another $20,000 and $50,000 out." Well,
off the top. No
right?
less.
Yeah, but
wait a minute. Who's Matt Colville? I got him mixed up with Matt Mercer
Matt
over on the
Strongholds
GURPS
guy. He has a YouTube channel. He's a what would you say his subscription numbers are? He's pretty high up there. He's got
probably 1 million.
Yeah, he's got millions of subscribers, and he does a channel about playing D&D and running D&D games. He ran a Kickstarter a while back, made over $1 million. He's he's the kind of guy they want. He would be a guy if you grabbed him and he signed up. That's who you want to throw out there. You want to throw out Wolfgang. You want to throw him out. You want to throw those guys out there and say, look, these guys signed with us, so they like it. If they liked it, you'd like it. The fact that those are the kind of guys that just went nope. I mean, Matt Colville got on his Twitter and started just lambasting him because it's like, what are you doing for me? I'm already making $1 million a Kickstarter. The same with the Critical Role people. I mean, what can they do for Critical Role at this point? Nothing. There's nothing they can do for Critical Role at this point.
Right. One thing that I want to poke at, because I ran the numbers with my Patreon subscribers today on my Discord, and one of the interesting things is that 25% revenue cut, top line revenue, is not fatal unless, and there's a big unless, you want to do big stuff. If you're publishing 16, 32 pagers, maybe black and white interior, et cetera, as a small person, and you're even above that threshold and you're losing 25%, you can make a profit. You can do it. I ran the numbers, and especially if you're someone like me and you don't have a building and employees and yada, 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 you can actually do reasonably well if you run your business tight. But what you can't do is this, or Pathfinder Core, or here's 250 some odd page setting books and stuff, because you need to sell a ton of them. And basically that slice off the top really pushes up the numbers that you need to do before you can recoup your development costs. So what it really does, that 25%, is it says, sure, publish all the 32-page black and white shit that you want, but nothing that's actually going to be dangerous or really sustainable
But also, Doug, I just think it boils down to the fact that the guys that are already making that money, they don't need WotC.
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't. No. I agree. I'm just sort of saying
$20,000. He might need WotC because I'm making $20,000. If I had WotC's name attached, just maybe I could bump that on 50. The guy already making $1 million, he doesn't need them. And so for them to come and say, we're just going to take money from you because we can and because you're making a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's why these guys didn't want to sign, because they're like, what are we getting in return?
Right. What's in this for us? The ability to use a rule set that doesn't exist yet. They're following, like, especially like Critical Role. Their following is not about the rules.
No,
right? Their following is about entertainment.
No, they don't have to.
And at least from what I understand is I don't know how. I mean, I believe I've not seen too much of it, but don't they kind of? I don't know. They're not exactly rules lawyers at that table.
No, they could announce tomorrow that cool. They could say tomorrow we're using the Tunnels and Trolls rule set, and they're not going to lose a single viewer.
And nothing would change, right? I mean,
here's the thing too. Remember, with 1.1, they were saying you can't do anything with our rules except for print and electronic static. So if you do a pantomime, if you do a YouTube channel, if you do a VTT, all this stuff was like, oh, you got to give us a special contract, and we'll work it out. So Ginny D and her music, we're going to tax it. Somebody does a D&D pantomime, which I don't understand how the hell you can, because you're not getting any D&D terms into a pantomime, but they listed it. So that, and that proves to me, by the way, that the leaked contract did not come from Wizards. It wasn't them testing the waters. And there's no fucking way they would have included stuff like that in the waters testing. This wasn't testing the waters. This was testing the publishers early on in December. Hey, is this going to work? Well, who's going to sign on for this? And one person did, because the contract that I have, still haven't shown in PDF because I want to blow the spot up of the person. Because I know the lineage of the chain of custody of where it came from. Somebody broke an NDA to get that into the wild. So God bless them.
Yeah.
It wasn't Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast fucking gaslighting us in that little announcement today. By the way, that leaked contract was kind of intentional, so we could judge reaction.
Nah.
Lie. It's a
think the only-
lie. That was the final draft given to people to sign. We know this. Eric and I know this. That right there, when I read that, I said the rest of this is going to be fucking bullshit lying.
Anyone who believes that can buy a timeshare from me. Call
Okay,
me
yeah, let me have that
1-800.
number.
I talked about it a little bit in my blog post, is that technically until it's executed, they're all a draft. So, that's a real letter of the law thing. But that was an executable, ready to be signed,
Yes.
Typos and all, right? So, but that was definitely something that, only by the skin of the sabotage,
We should do a whole show about what your favorite. I mean, we should take that whole statement. What's your favorite line? Because my favorite line by far was we're all winners line. I read that to my wife, and my wife had to go pee because she was laughing so hard, and I almost choked to death.
Was at the end of Thor Ragnarok? Okay, it's a tie, right? You needed someone to rebel against, and I was that person. So good job, go you, and it's a tie.
What was the third point?
Everybody gets a trophy.
Now I'm just saying it's the Jeff Goldblum school of public relations.
They had made a third, it was like, we did this for 3 reasons, and the third point was all of their butthurt that they felt for decades at Pathfinder captured into one sentence. It was like, the real heroes are the people out there, not the companies that try to make money off of what we did.
All right, I want to jump in there because I pulled all the numbers because I'm that kind of guy. All right, let's talk about this for 1 second, if you will indulge me. All right, so let's look at Paizo, who's probably the number 2 in the industry. If you look online, they make $12 million in top line revenue. And with about 125 people, I'm going to call it 120 because it makes math easy. That's your classic 100,000 per employee that you kind of want. And this is not lucrative. This is just, okay, I can pay somebody median income and we can get by and there's overhead and blah, blah, blah. So, right. So this is not Paizo are not fat cats, right? These guys are basically moving along and doing the rowing as they need to. Okay. So WotC had 1.3 billion, just WotC, not Hasbro, because Hasbro was about 5 times bigger. WotC had 1.3 billion in revenue on 1,500 employees, $866,000 in revenue per employee. That is more than Facebook. No, I think that might be more than Facebook. Somebody showed me a chart earlier. It's right below Microsoft, right? And these guys make software for a living where the marginal cost of production is like 0. That's not true. Microsoft has a lot more going on than that. Anyway, point is, right, is that they also made just shy of $550 million in net income in 2021, which is probably more than the top line revenue of every other role-playing game company combined, right? If Paizo's the biggest and it's 12, you got to pour a lot of Paizos to get to the profit of WotC. So don't tell me about large corporations, not even a little tiny bit, right? That is talk about David and Goliath. That's like Mega Goliath. That's like Godzilla and the entire army of Stomp Me Please. Right?
Hey, Dave. Hey, Doug. I don't think you told us how you really feel about it.
I try not to get too. That just bugs me. Right?
That was a good analysis. There,
don't tell me poor little me when you have more profit. Right, you could, and now, granted, WotC is a lot Magic the Gathering, right? And the goal here is almost certainly to say, let's push D&D up to the Magic level, right? That'd be a fantastic outcome for these guys. and healthy for the game industry if it's done right. I mean, there are ways of monetizing your product where the customers are like, please do the next thing. It's like me in frickin' Marvel movies, right? I'll see them all twice. I buy them on video. I'll buy the t-shirts. I'll get costumes for my kids, right? It's just, I love this shit. And I'll just do it over and over and over again, or me buying swords if I could afford them, right? So it's the thing, right? And that's what you want. You want people to, like, if I only had the money to give you, I would give it to you. And there are ways of monetizing that don't feel like this. But this is just, it's just the whole, we're not doing this for large corp. There are no large corporations other than them.
I'll tell you though, that
grumble.
It might not have been aimed at Paizo. That might have been aimed at Wendy's.
That was good.
You're right. I've heard so many good things about that game. I've never played it or read it, but I've heard great things that it's not
Another major
OGL.
corporation used their IP without any compensation for a promotional purpose. Well, that would be Wendy's, and God bless them for doing so. But
I wonder how much money that campaign made. That's funny. I mean, I'm sure it's not fun. I'm sure it's not funny to WotC, although my sympathy at this point is limited.
Funny ha ha, funny ho ho. How do you find
right?
Funny?
Exactly. How do you find it funny? I don't use
So I want to throw this out here. So we've been gossiping about WotC about this. So suppose, given the numbers of people who I know we're not representative of the entire hobby, but just suppose everybody you heard, and the worst case scenario ensues, and WotC remains full chaotic evil. We cannot use any of the open content. Can we continue our industry, can we divorce WotC basically?
Absolutely.
Yes, we're gonna have to. That's what we're doing.
And what do you think that would look like going down the road?
Paizo's thing that they announced yesterday.
Except not just Paizo.
It's just a matter of finding every fucking hobbit and replacing it with a halfling. That's all it is. You got to find every little hobbit, no matter what color or shape he is, and hunt his ass down and change him into another widget. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
They own nothing.
Yeah.
I agree, and because here's the deal: this has been said by many people in our hobby for years. Is it we never really needed the OGL, but it made everything a lot easier, and it did. It made things a lot easier because you didn't have to do all the hard work of having to deal with, I don't want WotC to sue me, so what do I need to do? But look, if you spend a little time, we can do that. People will do that. We're a hobby full of people on the spectrum. I mean, they do like nothing better than to sit over a 600-page rule book and change every hobbit to halfling to hobbit or hobbit to halfling, and that's that's what'll happen. It'll happen. It's not. I mean, it's a big deal, but it's not a game breaker.
We'll
So
survive.
I gotta say, I recently ordered the Pathfinder 2nd edition book, and it plunked on my desk. First of all, it's huge, but the funny thing about that is that. I would love to see the print specs on that because the paper is so thin, right? Really? I mean, if that were like, this is 150 pound paper, right? So it's like an inch thick, but it's 192 pages. Like if Paizo used that paperweight on that book, it would be like Law Dictionary or Gray's Anatomy or something, right?
Anyway, or Harn, which I'm not going to show you, but it's
okay, yeah. But I mean, it's just vast, this thing.
I got a question,
Everyone
guys.
who had Harn on their bingo card, please fill it in.
Yeah. I got a question, guys, because I figured what better way to wrap up the last part of this video than bust out the D&D Trivia Pursuit questions.
Oh,
all right. Ready?
Oh, by the way, Joe, you don't know this, but I got the game for Christmas too.
All right,
no cheating, Rob.
No cheating. All right, because I know you cheat.
Oh, I didn't read it. There's too many damn questions. John Peterson did a great job.
All right, you're ready. What type of damage has no negative effect on a flesh golem and actually causes the golem to regain hit points?
Electricity.
Wrong.
Subdual.
Wrong.
Oh, that's right. Electricity gets them all zipped
You're right.
up. Zipped up.
You're right.
I was right.
I just wanted to sound like the McLaughlin Group guy.
Bastard.
Wrong. Remember Dana Carvey's invitation?
Oh my God, yeah. I remember the original. I used to watch it before going to work.
Electricity does work. Oh, you're right. You said I was right. Oh.
Yeah, you were right.
Yeah, you're right.
He's fucking with your head.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Thomas S. Robertson was a fictitious person invented to serve as the everlasting president of what TSR-run association?
RPGA.
Boom! All right. Let's see.
Did not know that.
All right. Ceramorphosis, involving a transformation of a humanoid host, is the reproductive process for what psionic creatures?
Ooh.
Oh shit!
Mind flayers?
Boom! Yes.
All
right. Let's see here. What magic artifact named after its owner resembles a hovel that moves and dances on bird-like legs?
Baba
Baba
Yaga.
Yaga.
All right, you got it.
yeah.
You got it.
I'm feeling my chewy.
All right, I'll here throw some newer shit at you. What is the name of the grim cutthroat outpost on the banks of the underground river Sargoth, accessible from the 3rd level of Wonder Mountain?
Skullport.
Boom! All right, let's.
Bam!
All right,
let's
Joe,
see.
it's time for you to answer questions.
No, that's no fault. Rob, you break it there.
I'm
Break
sorry.
it
He's
down.
the
Which
lawyer. He's the
manufacturer-
lawyer. He'll be asking the question.
Yes, it's not your turn.
Answer the question, Joe. Which manufacturer of licensed AD&D miniatures in the early 1980s sold box set with the cover art by
Ralpartha.
Yes.
Grenadier.
Grenadier is the answer.
Grenadier.
Oh.
I
All right, you
had
can continue, Joe. I just wanted to bust your balls.
All right. Let's
Hold
see.
on,
No, it
baby,
gives me
hold
a
on.
chance to find the next question, though.
I got to get this game. Where's it on Amazon?
It's fun.
Get some older questions. Yes,
I'm
these,
going on
these
Amazon.
new school
Yeah.
ones of 2E and newer. I can't answer those.
But before we go, so who gets the money for this? If we all go, oh, this
That's
is so
right.
cool. Right. This is the phenomenon that they're
crap, this is
banking on.
Hasbro.
We're
Yeah,
in-
they got
Damn
the
you,
money.
Hasbro. Damn
right?
you.
So this is what they're saying is that shit like this is going to keep happening.
Can't
And look
be
how
done.
excited we are to do
Oh my
this.
God!
I got to find a used
Going
copy.
into their trap. It's a trap.
Thanks
Check
for
on
reminding me.
eBay.
I'm looking for a used copy. So.
Yeah, fine.
Wow. I've only had one
Sorry,
glass
I
of
couldn't
wine.
stop
I
my
gotta
sister
stop
from
this.
giving this to me.
Right.
All right. See,
Right.
you,
All
you
right.
didn't actually buy the drugs. Somebody else did.
And Electric
Yeah,
did it.
I
He's already
gotta
done it
admit,
before.
I don't usually
Wait a minute.
do this on
Still going.
video. So you're
Speaking of
catching
drugs,
me.
when did Matt pass out? Where the hell did he go?
He had to
He's
dip
been out for a while.
He's been out
off.
for a while.
Yeah, I saw him
Yeah.
lean in, and I went. I guess the narcotics are hitting in.
Yeah.
All right, where's Joe Blow? All right, in Greyhawk, which god carries a golden rod wound with silver gray threads called the Spindle of Fate?
Oh,
Come on,
I don't know, but that entire sentence was awesome.
Joe Block is somewhere like, I know it. Istis, goddess of fate. All right, all right. Here, Tim will like this one. What card in the deck of many things traps you in suspended animation in an extra dimensional sphere? He likes cards. I know he likes cards.
Wow.
I stumped
That's
him
deep.
Not the void.
The
That's
Void, isn't it?
though. The dungeon.
That was my next one.
Donjon,
The
right.
John.
Donjon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
All
yeah.
right. Let's see.
You know, speaking of odd words, it was probably not more than a month or so ago when I learned that. Let me get this spell this right. Demesne
Demens.
is domain. It's,
Oh, really?
it's pronounced exactly like we say domain.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, I struggled over that word forever, and then I finally did the obvious thing, which
Check
is I
that
have all the
Gaxian
world's
thing.
knowledge at my finger, so I looked it up.
Yeah,
But yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's how you pronounce it. It's a freaking domain. Anyway, moving on.
In another card one to redeem yourself, Tim. If you were happy
Okay.
fortune told in Barovia, what deck of cards would be used?
Troy. I don't know what his track. I forgot how that track.
Oh, the double card fail. Are we gonna get one? You're close. You're close.
Begins with a T. I don't know.
All right.
Troy.
Tarokka. Tarokka.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I
yeah.
give it to him. He was getting there.
He was close. You got 50%.
There.
You know, he was
All right.
he was getting there like a 7-year-old trying to.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
like
you
I
go.
was having a seizure. Yeah.
What television show featured the line, I didn't spend all those years playing Dungeons and Dragons and not learn a little something about courage?
X-Files.
Yes. Boom. In the episode,
Boom.
can you figure the episode?
I know.
Isn't
What
that
is
the
it?
one with the three guys?
For the files of Josie. No, I'm saying Jose. I can't remember the name now. Jose.
Yeah,
Jose Chung's From Outer Space.
Jose.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
All right. All right. What was the number on the last What was the number? What was the number on the last printed issue of Dragon magazine from September 2007?
No idea.
350.
What?
350.
359.
359?
Yeah.
You're missing 9 issues, Mike.
Oh
Yeah.
dear God.
maybe your old eyes thought that 9 was a 0.
Ah.
All right, here's one for the haters. Gleemax was the name of a powerful Modron, a digital platform for Wizards of the Coast, or the court jester of King Snur.
Oh God, a digital platform.
Digital
That
digital
awful
platform.
green color they put in.
Terrible.
Oh my God! It was like
I still got my
green
Gleemax
line.
brain around here somewhere. It's probably in the
I
other
have
room.
no idea what that is.
It was such a bad idea that the main
Terrible.
programmers killed
That's the stupidest name ever.
killed each other, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Murder
All right.
suicide.
All right, let's see here.
Sounds like a show on the CW.
Oh, that's too easy. I'm going for the history notes. Some of them are just too damn easy. All right. What iconic Dave Sutherland illustration in the 1978 Player's Handbook was turned into a module by Miney Cook in 1998?
Paladin from Hell.
The last
Paladin-
Paladin Hell. Was
Paladin
that
from
it?
Hell.
In
Yeah.
Hell.
Oh, in
Paladin
Hell.
in
Yeah.
Hell.
That was iconic.
He's
That
obviously
was
not
great.
from Hell. He's in Hell. You're right.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast staged the Yawning Portal and a town square in Waterdeep for 2018. For what 2018 release event?
Event.
Yeah.
That sounds cool, though. I wish I was there.
I know. I don't ever heard about
Gen
this.
Con?
Sounds awesome.
Dragon Heist. The event was seen online as the Stream of Many Eyes. It sounded like it was like an online event. Who the hell knew? All right. What 2020 D&D cookbook took its name from a spell that can conjure a meal for the whole party?
I don't, wait,
I can't remember the name, but it's a great book. If you see that book,
something Everlasting Feast.
it's a really good book.
Heroes Feast.
Heroes Feast.
Okay, Heroes
Yeah,
Feast.
it's
Okay.
By the way, we're probably violating the OGL 2.0 doing it.
Yeah.
We're
Fair
gonna
use,
get
buddy, fair use.
All right. What 2013 Gen Con exclusive module contained a preview of the forthcoming 5th edition D&D rules? I played it. It's very good, actually.
I have this too.
It's very good. It's a good adventure. I got only the PDF. The Ghosts of Dragonspear Castle. I stole a lot from that adventure. It was very good.
Worth quite a bit on the secondary market too, if you still have it.
That's it.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the interesting things about that is if I could segue for a minute, it's a really long title.
I know.
Right? No. I mean, like I always try and make my titles like no more than a couple of words with a couple articles, just so that you can see them right on a cover or on a thumbnail. That's a really long title. I mean,
All
to
right.
market with. I mean,
We got two interesting questions here, back to back. All right, the first one: what external firm did Wizards of the Coast commission to develop the inaugural 2014 Tyranny of Dragons storyline?
Wasn't Kobold, was it? No.
I know Steve Winter worked on that, but I can't remember what company
It was Kobold. It was Kobold.
Oh, it was Kobold.
All right. Now, in a follow-up question, on the very next card, we got this question. What external firm did Wizards of the Coast commission to develop 2015 Out of the Abyss and Sword Coast Adventures Guide?
Oh, I didn't know they were made outside of Washington.
I did not either.
Oh, most of them were. Most of them were.
Wow. I mean,
that time.
but I mean, coming back to the whole topic of conversation about what the third-party landscape does. Holy shit! Open and shut case, Batman.
Yeah.
Right.
It was-
I mean, this is. I mean, if you've ever it took me. I wrote my first thing for Steve Jackson games in like 2000 or 2002.
Hey, Doug, in the meantime, the whole audience is like, what's the fucking answer? Yeah, it was
Oh
Green
yeah,
Ronin.
sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Green Ronin. Go ahead.
No, Green Ronin, right? So,
Yeah.
so the thing is, right? I mean, I didn't get my contract with Steve until 2018, and that was after I had done 3 Kickstarters, written over a dozen Pyramid articles, and lead playtested 2 of their books. Right? It takes time to get. I'm patting myself on the back a little bit, but it takes time to develop authors and writers and layout people and whatever. And I mean, in terms of what has the third-party environment done for WotC, Jesus Christ. Sorry, my bad. But I mean,
Well, I would just say
I-
that Doug deserved the Distinguished Service Medal in wading through Steve Jackson's writer's guidelines.
Well, here's a couple of things. First, Wizards of the Coast was very much using their inside connections for their initial material, because after they developed the rule set, they had nobody left that really could create anything on team. So going out to Kobold, going out to Green Ronin, I actually own, dare I say it, the Dragon trilogy. It's good stuff. I would convert it, but it's usable stuff. As Kobold said, everything I've heard about from their recent releases, and trust me, I don't know them, so I'm just going from what I've heard from people who play 5e, is that they are a mess and a horror. And they were doing better when the third party were actually writing their material for them. It says a lot. It says a lot.
Yeah. All right. Before they called themselves Vox Machina, what did the party from Critical Role call their group?
Homeless?
Uh-huh.
I knew this sometime. They had a name.
Yeah, super high intensity team.
Oh God.
Okay.
Well, that's
Box is an improvement. Yes.
yeah.
All right, let's see. That's a boring ass question. Beadle and Grimm's line of deluxe D&D editions was founded by what actor famous for his films such as Scooby-Doo and Scream?
Oh, Matt Lillard.
Really?
Matt Lillard.
Yeah, I never heard of that before.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's at a lot of conventions because they're always the Beadle and Grimm have a booth, and he was at Game Hole Con last year. He'll be at Gary Con this year. So,
all right. What thing has two heads named Amuel and Hathradia?
That's got to be Demogorgon.
I was going to say that's where I was going.
It is Demogorgon. They gave a hint what demon, but I cut that out because it'd be too easy for you guys. All right. What's 1979 D&D module has a cover illustration credited to both Dave Sutherland and Dave Trampier?
1979 Trampier and Sutherland?
Yeah.
I don't know. Tomb
White
of
Blue
Horrors.
Mountain?
In
White
Search
Blue
of the Unknown. It is credited to DCS and DAT.
Oh, it is. Yeah, you're right. My favorite module. I didn't know that. Wow.
Hey, if I can interrupt, so Doug, if you notice, a lot of people are talking about Harn Orbal. This is what they're talking about.
Well, if you got in your car where Rob derails, here we go.
Yep. Knew that was coming. It wasn't even brought up in any way except about 45 minutes ago. And Rob's been looking for the book ever since to derail the whole. This is the commercial break of the show.
Right.
All right,
We're
commercial
back.
over. Bye, Harn.
All right. What edition of D&D was led by the design team of Heinz-Sue Collins and Wyatt?
The one I didn't care about because I had to be 480.
Yep. If you don't recognize it.
I don't recognize any of those names. So.
All right. No, that's bullshit. A lot of stupid ass questions or things that are so new. Who gives a fuck? You know.
That's a classic OSR.
Yeah.
Who cares?
It's new. I don't care.
The 1982 Treasure of Tarman was an AD&D licensed dungeon crawler adventure for what video game console? Oh, who was rich enough to own this? In 1982.
Treasure of Tarman.
ColecoVision. No.
I was going to say that's the one I was going to guess. ColecoVision.
No. 82?
82.
Oh, had to be in television.
In television, it is.
Oh, in television.
Yeah. Right, because Atari was, that was the one that, whoever said it, who was rich enough to have this, because Atari was the one that most people had, and that wasn't
right. I couldn't even afford that. I was like, I had to get the used version 10 years after it came out. All right, next. Who was the king of the orcs? Oh, this is some deep Arneson lore. Who was the king of the orcs in the Blackmore campaign?
Ooh, that's a good question because I don't know that.
Oh shit! Funk, King Funk.
Yes, he's named for the player. Named for the player Fred Funk. I thought Rob might pull it off. He's just he likes the Blackmore.
Oh my god!
Wow.
I remember the Orkin Way. I just didn't, and I know there was a king. And I know it was actually played by David Funk. So yeah, that makes sense.
Nice.
Here's another little Blackmore trivia.
Hey,
here.
a little trivia about that.
There we go.
No, seriously.
No, seriously. Actually,
unlike campaigns we run today, when Dave first ran Blackmore, the NPCs, the bad guys, were run by other players. So they had sessions where the orcs and King Funk were players beating up other players.
That's fun. That's fun. It's whenever, if you can ever, one of my game masters that I played with for a while, Christopher Rice, would engage some of the other play. He would run like 3 teams in the same shared world, and he would engage other players in his team to run the opposition against different teams. So it had a, you're so deep in running the game and you're trying to keep everything together to do like original strategic stuff. Reeks of GM NPC and stuff like that. So you actually have another player guiding the opposition. Man, that gets ugly in a good way.
Oh, I bet.
Oh yes, they fallen into my trap. What trap? I don't know. The game master's going to find out at the same time.
All right. What industry award trophy enshrines the remains of a copy of TSR's 1984 Adventures of Indiana Jones?
The
Tankies.
The whatever Jones Award.
Diana
The
Jones.
Diana Jones Award. Yeah.
You got it.
You know the story. I can tell you the story about that. You want the story about that?
Yeah. Let's hear
The
it.
story about that is a copy of the box set was burned, and I can't remember the circumstances of that, but all that was left was a little scrap of paper that says Diana Jones on it. So they decided, we'll call it the Diana Jones Award.
All right,
I mean, it's just weird. It's a weird ass reason, but yes, it was from an Indiana Jones box set.
Oh, here's a good one. Nobody will get. What was the first game produced? What was the first game product sold by Wizards of the Coast?
Primal Order.
How the fuck do you know that? Son of a
Because I
bitch.
have it, and I'm not going to pull it out.
Yeah. Just no pulling anything out on screen.
No
Rob.
pulling it out, Rob.
No, I'm just saying.
Whip this out.
Well, I thought Primal Order was like a god supplement for your fantasy.
No, it's an
It is.
actual card game. It's a card game. It's interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a-
all
it's a-
right.
It's a role-playing
It's an
game.
RPG product.
It's a role-playing game for god-level characters, co-authored by Peter Atkinson, according to this.
Yeah, the card game is a different one.
Mm.
I had
Oh,
that
okay.
too. Beautiful artwork.
I seem to remember it flopped pretty badly. Luckily, they had this backup thing called Magic the Gathering. And they
Well,
kept
Yeah.
they not only flopped, they got sued by Palladium over it.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, they included conversion rules for Palladium, and Sabinian said, "Nope, I'm suing your ass." And they settled for a nominal sum, and they had to put a sticker on every book that this is not an authorized product of Palladium Games.
Here's some weird shit.
Okay, I got to see it. I just remember I got to see
Oh,
it.
here we go. That's
All
right.
right, listen, we're getting into the weeds here.
We're getting into
Getting into Rob's.
Rob's
Yeah,
weeds.
there
Yeah.
it is. There's the sticker. That's the sticker.
Had it right there. He had it right there.
Rob,
How did Rob pull that out? Yeah.
I have gaming material in 2 houses in 2 states plus storage, and everything that comes up, like Rob's like, oh, that's right. You have a magic bag you reach into.
It's
Oh,
a
my
Hugh and
goodness,
Sandy
hold on.
Haversack going over there. Yeah.
Look at
Over
this.
on the other side of this monitor, I have a bag of holding. I'm not
I
kidding.
have, look at this sea rations from 1959.
My wife got it for me.
You were mentioning that. I got it.
Hey, look, I don't have any White Wolf stuff anymore except for the original release of Vampire the Masquerade. That's the only thing I kept out of that whole collection.
Well, listen, we
Thank
are,
God.
we are pretty, we hit a high of 85 live stream viewers,
Jeez,
which
nice.
thank you, folks. That is that we got to bring Luke Gygax back because I thought we had a high of like 47 with Luke, and we like nearly double that number. So yeah, go Watsy. Thank you for this year in Gaming Stupid 2023. You've hit the high watermark.
It's already
It's not going to
started.
get past. We've already decided that.
We're fighting for runner-up this year.
Yes. So you know.
The call's coming from inside the house, Watsy.
It's you. What? It's you. Huge thank you to
That was a Babylon 5 reference, wasn't it? It's you? No?
It could be.
Okay.
It could be.
Okay.
I wasn't doing like the Captain Sheridan. No, cannot see. When he's like trying to.
Zathras.
Yeah,
God,
that's
Zathras.
Love
Ah!
That
He was
was
the
awesome.
The one cannot see the one. Ah!
It's wrong.
No,
Never
Doctor
use
says
this.
you're not the one.
I have
You're
a
not
question.
the one.
Wait, I have a question for you, Eric, real quick. I just remember that's something I wanted to ask you. And I forgot. I'm going to ask it on the show as we're ending the show.
Oh, okay.
What are you gonna? What does this mean for continual light?
Well,
your
well,
rule
here,
You're working on
if you want something for the midnight auction, the one and only OGL version
Oh,
of
no.
this with the edits in it, we could auction that off.
Ooh, interested.
That I'll sign it, but it might get some money. So the idea is I have to go through that and I have to de-OGLify the rules. But if I'm going to go through it and de-OGLify the rules, I'm going to probably add some extra, make it more fun.
Oh, nice.
And as an aside to that, I have signed a license with Trollhalla Press to work with the Monsters and Monsters rule set. That's not going to be this, but this working with Glenn Hallstrom, potentially Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt had some interest in it. We're talking of doing superhero rules for Monsters, which will be interesting. And I don't know if I'm leaking information. I can't leak yet, but there's going to be apparently a free version of Monster rules put up on Trollord, not on Trollord, on Drive-Thru, so folks can have like the core rule set, probably like a light rule set, but more on that when I know more. So you can play from the stuff from your favorite producers. A lot of people signed up. It's pretty interesting to see the companies that are going to be producing stuff for Monsters, which is not Tunnels and Trolls, but because you can't say it is on any of your. Oh, who's watching this? Only 60 people. It's Tunnels and Trolls.
It's not Tunnels and Trolls, but it's Tunnels and Trolls.
Right. But you can't. You can say things like, it's from Ken St. Andre, the same man who wrote Tunnels and Trolls. One of the.
I thought trivia was done for tonight. What are you doing?
Nah, shut. So again, thank you to Doug. I've known Doug for years. He's always a fun guest. He was the first person that had me on as a guest.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then do you remember who followed?
No.
Come on, surely you must remember.
Stacy.
Oh, I totally blanked on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yeah, no, that was.
Then I was on after that, and then you asked me
that was
Stacy's questions.
Yeah, no, we had that was a period of during my blog that I mean, it was time intensive, but it was an awful lot of fun. I got to talk to a lot of people. I had like a 2-hour conversation. I'd say it was a conversation with Ken Hite, but really I asked him one question, then shut up for 2 hours, and it's the best interview I've ever done. Yeah, no, that was fun. If I could break out of the just what's the next meal, so to speak, that would be the kind of thing that I would want to be able to do. Break some time out to do more of.
They were very good, folks.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your YouTube channel is still up, and it's probably Gaming Ballistic.
It is. They're still there.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Subscribe to it, folks. So when Doug in a year or two gets around to doing more, you don't want to miss him. He does a great job with his interview. GamingBallistic.com is his store. His website. Go visit, support. Rob Conley's back in the attic. He's on Drive-Thru. Support. Matt? Don't. Well, you could support him. He needs it today. He needs an athletic supporter today.
Those are bad.
Tim Shorts, Gothridge Manor. Listen, he's got a Patreon. Folks might not know about it. It is good. The material is great. And Rachel laughs when I get more stuff from Tim, because she's like, "Do you ever stop?" I'm like,
I haven't done anything for a while. Yeah, I'm getting back on my feet. So yeah, I'm getting back to it.
It's small stuff. Don't worry about it. The one looking like the other Satan that, the non-bad Mike Satan is Greg Christopher.
Thank you.
Chubby Funster Games on Drive-Thru. Grab his shit. Adventure. I can't get it. It's A&A. Adventure.
Ambition and avarice.
Oh, I want to say adventure. I have no fucking clue. Really a lot of fun, a lot of inspiration. If you like playing non-standard races.
And the best equipment list in any game system.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of good tables in there. I'm stealing from my 2E game.
Normally we say things like, "Oh, if you want great lists, you go to X." Greg gives McCree a run for his money, and in less pages. So huge thing.
It's still a heavy book. You know, you need a crane to get it to your table, but.
Yeah,
I like a book that doubles as a self-defense object.
Oh, then buy the Blight. It's on sale at Frog Guy Games. Bad.
And then let me pimp Greg Gillespie. His monster book in the last 2 days. It's the number 2 seller on Drive Through RPG. So
nice.
It's a. I ordered 2 copies. It looks really cool.
Its lifespan is limited.
Yes.
It is OGL. So, and since it's print on demand, unless Greg decides to buy 100 copies and have them ready for cons, that's likely going to be it. So buy it. It's good stuff. Joe the Lawyer, his videos. Joe had videos that went on fire before I did, except for my Trove video. And then this week,
you're killing it this week, dude. I can't believe I just looked up your shit before. You got like 5,000-10,000 views on a video in the last couple of days on multiple videos.
On Frog God Games, it's over 12,000 views.
Wow.
I take a fucking week off to go on vacation. All hell breaks loose. Son of a bitch! I get no videos out because I'm in New York having fun.
Damn, Joe! I think you owe everybody a steak.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
Hold my beer. No, really, hold it.
I gotta do a video. Hold this beer. Yeah, it's terrible, man. But, I was doing good. I was going up in subscribers, and I was closing in. I'm like, hey, Eric, I might be able to get to 2,000 before Eric. Eric's already got 1,000 off of this week alone. You know,
500. By the way, folks, we are realistically within 40 months is out to hit 2,500. When we do,
that's awesome.
Mike and I will give away $250 in Drive Through RPG gift certificate.
Nice.
So, and hopefully Jen Glazer won't win it all, but
Jen is denied.
Yeah, I could probably donate a couple copies of Dragon Heresy. God knows I have.
There you go.
All right, well, folks,
so we did. I'm trying to remember. I think we did. I did a role playing game camp with the person who ran the camp. We got like Dungeon Fantasy role playing game box sets for everybody. But one of the sessions, I was there, and I he invited me up, and so I just brought a case or two of Dragon Heresy. I'm like, you get a Dragon Heresy, you get a Dragon Heresy, you get a Dragon Heresy. Everybody walked out with like $100 worth of free books.
Oh, Doug, maybe one of those kids in 25 years will pull Dragon Heresy out in a video like I did Primer Order.
There you go.
That's what you're looking forward to. Yeah.
25 years, I'll be. Yeah, that doesn't really work so well for me.
Thank you to all the new subscribers. If you're watching this, you haven't subscribed, please do. We do live streams 3 days a week. And otherwise, I try to keep on top of the news. Thanks to all the new viewers that have been catching our channel. And I'll be back to, assuming nothing happens overnight. I'm hoping for this.
50-50, man. 50-50.
Next time should be 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Myself, my wife Rachel, we're going to be doing Gamers Health. It's our weekly thing. And if you enjoyed the short appearance of Mario Real, Mario will likely drop in because
that's sweet.
He's binging on alcohol and drugs, most likely. Okay.
That's a big night. Yeah.
Now I know who Mario is.
Yeah, there you go.
It just hit me. And the edible was good. I couldn't follow that shit before.
So, folks, as always, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Good night.